So if you're looking to become a project manager and you've got an interview coming up, or you're just looking to be prepared in case an interview comes up, I've got 3 major tips that I'm going to outline in this video for you, which help me get the role where I currently work right now as a full-time remote project manager. I hope you guys find these tips useful. If you do, be sure to drop me and subscribe to this channel, and let me know in the comments if you'd like me to cover any more additional topics under project management or any other areas. So first of all, disclaimer, project manager interviews are usually divided into 3 categories. So you usually have the first, which is more personal, them understanding who you are, more introductory. You get the second stage, which is more technical, which is more role heavy questions to understand how your experience fits with the company where you're going right now, or the company that you're applying to right now. And third stage is if they liked you from the first 2 stages and they want to check if you're a team fit. Now, I'm not necessarily going to go through all those 3 stages in this video. This is going to be more focused on the middle stage, which is the technical, what is your experience section, typically during a project manager interview. Now, the 3 areas that I'm going to cover, which help me massively in terms of getting the role where I am right now, are research, sharing examples, and practicing your communication skills. Now, in terms of the research element, what you want to do, you want to research the company and the role for the interview. And the reason why you do that, this shows that you've got a solid understanding of the company and the specific role that you're applying for. So what you want to do is do things like looking into the company's core values, mission, and current projects. And you also want to read the job description thoroughly as well to help you understand exactly what responsibilities and what qualifications they require for that position. Very important to pay attention to this, because a project manager in one company isn't necessarily a project manager in another. Project management roles can differ massively depending on the company where you do the role. Some companies are more traditional, whereas others are more modern, and can vary the role massively. Now, in terms of where you can find this information quite easily, as I mentioned, you've got the job description, which tend to be detailed and which tend to explain a lot more regarding the role. Now, alternatively, what you normally get in the job description, you'll normally have contact or a recruiter on there asking you to give them a call if you'd like to understand a bit more about the role. That's another good way as well if you want to get in touch with that recruiter. If perhaps it's not fully clear from the job description in terms of what they require, give them a call. Recruiters absolutely love that, because in a way, those are leads for them in order to fulfill that role and get paid. So that's the second way. So you've got the job description, you can contact the recruiter directly. And the third way is by researching the company online. So outside the advert and the recruiter directly, you've also got social media channels. So a lot of companies tend to have your Instagrams, your LinkedIn's, your YouTube, and other areas online, and actually their websites as well, which is obviously going to be a good one. So you want to go on the website, go on these social media channels, and understand exactly what the company has achieved, what those values, mission, current projects are, what projects they're most proud of, and maybe learn a bit more about the staff and the employees there as well, if there are any sort of videos that introduce the people and what they do within those roles. Now, this is also going to help you tailor your answers to that company. So when you are being asked questions during an interview, your answers are not just going to be generalized, but you're going to be tailoring them for that specific role and for that specific company, which companies do tend to appreciate. And really, it's going to show that you've made an effort, you've done your research, and even if your answers are not necessarily correct, that's going to come across during the interview that you've actually worked hard in terms of researching and understanding a bit more about the company and the role, which again is something that's going to play massively in your corner. Now, the second tip is preparing examples. So as a project manager, you'll obviously be expected to have experience managing or leading projects to success. Now, if you're someone that's currently going into an interview, you want to be ready to share examples of successful projects that you've managed in the past, goals, challenges, outcomes, etc. Now, a technique or a framework that really worked for me, and that's worked for a lot of people in the past in terms of how you structure your answers, is called the STAR technique. So you want to structure your answer as situation, what was the situation, just to build context around it, the task, what were you asked to do during that situation, or what was your role, or what was expected of you, the action, what you actually did during that situation, and the result, and what was the outcome of that whole situation. So if you structure your answer that way, then the interviewers will get the information that they're looking for. Very important to pay attention to that as well, because it's very easy to ramble and end up going completely off topic, and that's where you get those questions, them prompting you a bit more because they're not getting the information that they're looking for. Whereas if you try and stick to that as much as possible, a lot of the time they will get the information that they require. So really think about that. And again, you want to try, and even if you've not necessarily got a lot of experience leading projects to success, if you haven't got a specific example for that question, try and think about an example that's as close as possible to that particular scenario. So what you want to do in practice, and this is something that I did as well, you want to go online. There's amazing tools right now, ChatGPT, where you can simply ask what are the interview questions for this type of role, and ChatGPT will literally list those out for you, even though they can't necessarily confirm that those are the specific questions that are going to be asked, but they can give you a general idea of what sort of questions tend to be asked. You want to try and go through these individually. You want to write down an example or 2 examples under each one, and this this is where you're going to be studying prior to the interview. You're actually going to be reading and remembering these examples. In fact, you could even bring those examples written down during the interview and just be honest and say, yeah, I've got some preparation and some examples that I've written down here just to make sure that I stay on track as much as possible. Ideally, you want to try and remember, but if you can't, just be honest and just say to them you've got them written down as well. Honesty helps out a lot and it grounds you. So you want to be as honest as possible around that. So yeah, you go on ChatGPT, you can go on Google. Generally, these questions tend to remain more or less the same. A lot of the time, you'll find 50-60% are what you've researched, and maybe another 40% may be different to what you generally find online. So that's how you prepare. The third tip is communication skills. So you want to practice your communication skills. Now, what we mean by that, project managers need to be obviously effective communicators, both verbally and in writing. You want to make sure that you can practice your communication skills before your interview. For example, thinking about how you present yourself professionally, how you can be concise in your answers and articulate your thoughts clearly so they come across clearly during the interview. You want to answer practicing common questions such as, why do you want to be a project manager? What are your strengths and weaknesses? So you can feel a bit more confident during the interview and demonstrate your ability to communicate effectively. Now, it's worth remembering a lot of the time questions are not always going to come direct. They're going to try and be vague. For example, the question that I've mentioned there, why do you want to become a project manager? You can very easily answer that within one line, but you want to try and avoid that. You want to be as detailed as possible. Again, you want to link back to that STAR technique that I've mentioned, maybe give an example around that. Every single question that they ask you, you need to tie an example to that answer. They're not necessarily going to ask you directly, give me an example of when you've done this, give me an example of when you've done that. Yes, they may at some points during the interview, but there may be some questions as well that are tied into that where they're not asking you for example, but you want to try and tie in as many examples as possible to each answer. If you don't have a specific answer or a specific experience linked to that question, you want to follow up with the question. Be honest and just advise them or tell them that you've not necessarily been in that situation before. How would they approach it? What have they found are the best practices for their people in resolving those situations? So honesty, again, grounds you and humanizes you, and that wins every single time, unless it's honesty as in saying, I don't want the job or I'm not the right person for this job. Then that's a completely different story. So in summary, again, you want to research the company, you want to prepare examples, and you want to practice your communication skills. Hope you guys found this video useful. Let me know in the comments if you have. Again, let me know if there's any other areas within project management that you'd like me to discuss. If you'd like me to perhaps go in a bit more detail around the different stages of the interview and what's covered within each one. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you've got your introductory stage, and you usually have your technical, which is more intense and where you have like your multiple panels and people within a panel. And you've also got the third one, which is more of a relaxed team fit interview. If you'd like me to cover that in a different video, let me know in the comments. If enough people request it, more than happy to go away and spend time and get that recorded for you. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you. I'll see you on the next one.